Oh, hello, hello. Welcome back to Karate Ramblings. I'm Kieran McKenzie,
And I'm Brian Bates.
and today we are talking about is it still karate? So, with the wave of different types of styles of karate, different competition methods, different ideas, we're wondering at what point do things stop being, if ever, stop being karate? So, Brian, why don't you kick us off in your own terms? How would you describe karate?
Yeah, well, fighting with empty hands, isn't it? Well, actually, say karate does actually literally mean translated empty hand.
Mhm.
Although old school karate trains with weapons as well, doesn't it? But I mean, what prompted me to sort of or us to talk about this was I think we shared a video, or what one of our students did, Paul, of our sparring, and there's a lot of throwing, groundwork, as well as stand-up striking. And to purists, well, I'd say purists, I say I'm gonna Shotokan practitioners would say that's not karate. I think it's mainly the Shotokan practitioners that don't like this sort of thing. But but yeah, so I put the video up on my page and asked, you know, yeah, this is the way we spar nowadays. Would you say it's still karate? And the majority of people, I don't think one person said no, it's not. Everybody said yeah, it's still karate. But then I wondered how many of them actually train like that, or what the sparring was like in their dojo.
Mm.
Um, but
I
yeah, I
do.
think
Yep.
yeah, go on.
I was going to say, I do wonder if we took the geese off, how many people could still say it's still karate?
Well, that's another thing. 'Cause, before tonight's conversation, I did come across a video on social media. Um, there were two people doing kata in without a gi, and in the comment section there was somebody going, "Oh, that's not karate. You've not got your gi on." So, by definition, somebody thinks it's not karate if you're not wearing a gi.
All of a sudden,
Um,
you put a gi on, and all of a sudden you're a karateka. Or someone warned the BJJ guys; they're not going to like this.
yeah, magically putting a gi on makes it karate. So, I mean that's another thing. We don't always wear a gi, do we? So we do train in shorts. We are clothed. So I say we don't always wear a gi. Yeah, there is always some sort of clothing, but yeah, sometimes it's shorts, but mostly a gi top because we like the gi top for the grappling element of
Mm,
karate. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, so when is it not karate? It's an interesting one.
The thing is, it really just depends on how you're training. I don't think it's got anything to do with the uniform. You could do no gi karate. I think you can do that quite well. Um, the thing is, it's what you're training and how you're training. So if, if you look at our structure, I mean, we do things from kata, we do things that we see sometimes in combat sports, sometimes we things we picked up at seminars, different throws or techniques or ideas and concepts we pick up through different people as we go along. We add that to our karate. So, in my personal opinion, karate isn't it's a broad term, the same way kung fu is a broad term in Chinese martial arts, because it doesn't actually mean martial arts. It means like the continuing perfection and mastery of your own craft. So
Hmm.
karate for us, if you go for empty hand fighting, is for me, if you want to use that same analogy, it is us continuing and getting better at this craft of empty hand fighting, like you said earlier.
Yeah, and the bare bones of it is karate is well, it's self protection or fighting. So self protection is not fighting. It's going home safely in whatever means. But the hard skills, the bare bones of it is, yeah, is going home safely by whatever means necessary, whether that would be
Mm,
using weapons or whether that be using empty hand.
mm,
But yeah, I think it should be, or what you said about what we do. We've taken on throws, taken on this, taken on that. That's how karate should be. I think it should evolve. It should evolve with time, and if it doesn't evolve, um, I think it would die, wouldn't it?
yeah.
Or you're just trying to preserve history, is what you're doing. So
Mm,
karate should definitely be evolving. And I suppose you've got like the historical reenactors. So if you're doing karate as
mm,
it was done in the 1920s or the 1930s, all you're doing is doing a historical reenactment.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if you're evolving like we try to do, you're doing true karate, I think.
Mm. Yeah, some people get involved in serious LARPing, unfortunately. But
Yes.
what I was okay, question for you then, Brian. If karate is fighting with empty hands, what is the difference between something, in your own opinion, what's the difference between something like karate and Muay Thai?
Uh, they're both karate. I mean, in a way, that it's just fighting, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
so you could argue a lot of the techniques you find in Muay Thai are in karate, and if they're not, I mean, what we should be doing as karateka is taking the best elements of Muay Thai, which is all of it. You know, it's all good. You should be taking those elements and putting it into your karate because what you want
Mm.
is like a meridote. You want the best of all and the worst of none. You know, so
Yeah.
if karate's got some bad elements to it, you know, you want to be ditching that, you know, as we've done, you know, as coming from a Shotokan background, you know, we've dropped 5 step, you know, 1 step, 5 step, go, Juipon. Even recently, we've been talking about dropping the classical basics. Even our
Mm.
basics are
Yeah.
not so classical. We're not marching up and down in lines when we do them. We have some function to what we do,
Mm.
but it detracts from um, getting a good skill set. I think,
Mm.
you know, so
Yeah.
it refines techniques and makes your technique look crisp, but you know, it's not good for hand to hand combat. I don't think, you know, unless you're doing it
Yeah.
hand to hand.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree there. I think a big thing, like if you ask me the difference between karate and Muay Thai, the biggest difference is where it comes from. One comes from
Yeah,
Okinawa, the other
what
one
they
comes from
wear.
Thailand. Yeah, what they wear, what equipment's used. In reality, I mean, we've said this time and time before, but fighting is fighting. You know, punch is a punch, a kick is a kick. You know, hitting someone is still, you know, hitting them as hard as you can for effect. You know, it is rule set. It is the way it is trained. And speaking of the way it is trained, you know, going back to one of the reasons why we were considering cutting down the traditional Keon is also because of time. If someone comes to training once a week, a senior, they get an hour and a half with us, but that's an hour and a half each week. How much time are they going to spend hitting pads? How much time are they going to spend, you know, learning and getting better at throwing? How much time are they going to spend wrestling on the ground? How much time are they going to spend, you know, getting up and fighting and sparring? It is, you know, the best use of your time to get the ideal skills. I mean, the ideal skills I'd say is someone who can, you know, handle themselves. But, you know, one of the biggest things we aim for, and it is the first aim of our first grade, is to hit and hit hard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's all of it. You know, like I say, it is about time efficiency. So what we do, if we had more time, perhaps we could spend. Oh, I wouldn't. I say we could spend time doing the key on and stuff, but
Mm.
I'd spend more time doing your partner drills and doing your sparring. But
More time for sparring rounds,
interestingly,
exactly.
I think I'm going to get this completely wrong, but I remember Ian talking about something like this. He
Mm.
was doing a seminar with there was I can't remember. There was like somebody did kickboxing, somebody did a different art, somebody did something else, um, and none of them were wearing gi, so it was all in sort of t-shirts and shorts. And in he looked around at what other people were doing. So there was, you know, he decided he would do some trapping because there was nobody there doing trapping.
Mm.
So he did some flow drills, trapping, and then at the end of it, somebody goes, "Oh, I didn't know you was a kung fu practitioner." He said, "I'm not," and it was only because he wasn't wearing his karate suit. You know that they thought that, you know, they thought he was doing kung fu, but karate has trapping in it, right? So
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
it was something along those lines, anyway. So,
Yeah, no, I think I've heard that
or
story before.
the gi gives it, yeah, the gi gives it away. Or if you're not wearing your gi, people think you're doing something else, and that sort of
Mm.
links to some because obviously you post some of our training videos on YouTube, and as I do more so, whenever we do a throw, you know, a lot of the time, I remember one specifically. Is what we do for the open and move of Basadai, where we lift them off the feet and we sweep the legs away. Um,
Hmm.
and somebody going, "Oh, that's not karate, that's wrestling." And then, you know, I was like, "No, it's karate." And he's like, no, it's wrestling. And it kind of, somebody else chipped in. I looked back on the video the other day because I was going to just jump in again. It's like a year later, I was just going to just like, it's karate, just to keep that back and forth going, you know. But
Oh,
yeah, so
brilliant.
people, and again, you know, if I wasn't wearing a karate suit and I titled it differently, nobody would have said anything. But
Mm,
you know, karate has all these throws in, just because it's a throw, it doesn't belong to judo or it doesn't belong to wrestling. You know, it's karate
mm.
as well. You
See,
know,
that is the interesting thing. We talked about earlier about preservation is so many people think, okay, if you're doing karate, you're doing this ancient art. I'm sorry, but karate isn't ancient. Karate got its name within the last, I want to say 150 years, give or take, at some point. And then that's not ancient. If you want to go ancient, let's talk a few thousand years ago. Every martial art has evolved since whatever BC. Karate isn't ancient. It's still pretty new in terms of like its
it's a fair, yeah,
popularity in the
yeah,
world. I
yeah,
think the big problem is people think because they think, oh, it's ancient, it's old, it has to stay that way because it was done for a reason. Okay, certain things were done for a reason, but at the same time, what is stopping people from actually adding other things to their karate, be it even like the Okinawan wrestling, or be it moves from judo or chokes from jiu-jitsu? What is stopping people from doing that? In my opinion on that is the thing stopping that is the big organizations, the ones who are setting like the main sort of image standards for karate. I mean, what's it? The JKA is pretty strict. Remember we had that conversation about when they said around the letter about not training with certain people because they're not the same as our way in
yeah,
quotes, you know?
yeah. Well, I think organisations like that don't want you to train outside their bubble
Mm.
because, you know, I mean, it certainly opened my eyes, my one black eye as well. We can talk about how I got that later.
Eyeshadow.
My eyeshadow, yeah, I've got to do the other eye. No, but it certainly opened my eyes when we started training elsewhere, and then it makes you realise actually the karate that I'm doing, um, coming from a traditional Shotokan background, it was incomplete, you know.
Mm.
And when you read the books from Funakoshi, and I think Otsuka made comments about it, and various different old masters saying the karate that we see in Japan now is incomplete. You know,
Mm.
so you know, by including all the things that we do, we're kind of going back to its roots, really. You know, so it is karate. so,
Mm.
so what we do.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, and I would say, you know, when we talk about attire, karate attire,
Mm.
you know, karate combat now, you know, so they don't
Yeah,
wear gi tops. I wish they would, you know, because it makes such a better fight.
yeah.
It would open it up for so much more karate, really. Um,
Absolutely.
but you know, it's karate combat, you know, and people are going to say it's not karate. Um, I would say it's a modern kickboxing, really, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
but
Kickboxing does come from karate as well.
exactly,
Yeah. No, it is a difficult one. I really think that if you're talking in like the modern sense, everyone's looking to a martial art as in is it effective in a combat sport? And if the combat sport is called kickboxing, then it's kickboxing skills. If it combat sport is called karate combat, then it's like, oh no, it's not kickboxing, it's karate. I mean, a lot of people have criticized it for saying, it is the format is basically just karate, and now it is basically Muay Thai because considering the elbows and the knees. It is unfortunate that there isn't a unifying standard throughout karate on what we can agree, what karate skills are considered, but at the same time, I think it was Harry Gilling, our mate Harry, who said this, that one of the worst things ever to happen in karate is standardization.
yeah, yeah. I suppose that would be well to make karate more popular as a sport,
Hmm.
perhaps some sort of standardization, but it's what kind of standardization do you want? So for me, I wouldn't want it to be so like if we're talking to make it an Olympic sport, for example, I wouldn't want the WKF rules. I don't
Hmm.
really think karate combat rules are it either. You know,
Hmm.
so I'd really want to showcase. all of karate's strengths. So
Yeah.
yeah, so karate combat wouldn't do it for me. Neither would the WKF. So it would have to be some form of sparring with striking, grappling, throwing, a little bit of groundwork, but keep the groundwork
Mm.
limited as well.
Yeah, I personally don't know if that sort of thing would ever be allowed in the Olympics because a lot of people are asking, well, why isn't kickboxing in there? But you've got boxing, or why is BJJ in there? But yeah, you've got judo. I feel like that it's A going to be end up being looking either A too similar or B too widespread, if that makes sense. Because if you look at boxing skills, you've got your striking. If you look at wrestling, you got your big throwing and you got your pinning. Judo has been stripped so heavily down. I mean, judo players are absolutely fantastic at what they do, but judo itself has been so stripped down that you can't even grab someone's leg anymore
Yeah.
because it's just if you have what I'm saying is each of these skill sets are specific to an art. Karate is so wide, I don't think they'd ever say, okay, this, and this is karate, if that makes sense, because it's just too wide.
So is it right that when karate went over to Japan and Funakoshi met with Kano, the founder of judo, did he want Funakoshi to limit the throws in karate to differentiate the two? So karate had to be a bit more punchy kicky. So then, if you wanted to do the throwy stuff, you've got judo.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah. I
pretty
mean,
sure I heard that. Yeah.
yeah, no, I've heard that. I mean, my own I guess you can call it low level conspiracy theory is that Jigoro Kano or Kano, I'm not, I really, Jigoro Kano, I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but
I always say
when
Kano,
he,
but
yeah, let's go with Kano. When he spoke to Funakoshi, I wouldn't say he strong armed him, but also I think he did have quite a lot of leverage himself into what they would allow because it's like okay, if Funakoshi goes teaches at a Japanese university, and a lot of the universities are under uh, Kano's sort of not sway or influence to an extent. Like, okay, if he goes there and starts teaching throws, then that would almost be seen as disrespectful to Jigoro Kano. So uh, karate again got limited to okay, he's not going to go there and teach throws. He's going to go there and teach them the Okinawan methods of striking. So
mm,
I do think it was a case of okay, if you want to make it in Japan, you're going to do this, or is it was like oh, if you want to make it working with me alongside you, it would be better if you didn't do any
yeah,
throwing. I don't know. I don't know how he would have gone about doing it if he would have been nicer and more diplomatic, or if he would have said, "Okay, you're in my territory now. You do what I say." He could have done. I mean, I'm not saying he did, but that's my low level conspiracy theory is that when he went, he just physically wasn't allowed either socially, as in to not cause disrespect, or just was simply told black and white, if you do this, you're out.
but it's interesting though because old school judo had striking in it as well, didn't it? So
Mm. Yeah, old school
um,
judo, old school sumo did as well. Like
well,
before,
still do strike, don't they? Really, when they
yeah,
sort of go from the off, they're sort of palm
mm,
striking each other, aren't they? But I mean, all that the Japanese arts all sort of seem to come from jiu-jitsu, though, don't they? Japanese
mm,
jiu-jitsu. So, because I was
yeah,
going to say,
and
when they talk about Aikido, they say it's 90% atemi, but you look at any Aikido demonstration or video, there's no atemi in there whatsoever, really. So,
apart from at your
apart from
club.
me, yeah, getting a black eye, yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
that's where I got
brilliant.
my black eye, yeah, Aikido jiu-jitsu class.
Mm,
Um, yeah, yeah. So it's an interesting one. So I think when I was going to say it's the same when somebody sees a throw and they'll try and correct you, saying, "No, no, you need to do this and that." But like I say, a karate throw is not the same as a judo throw anyway. We take
mm.
kazushi differently. We'll atemi first, or the atemi, the setup would be different for a throw. The throw would be different.
Mm. And
Um,
also karate. I mean, not saying this is a slight against judo, but one of my own personal pet peeves when I was doing judo was that you could only be allowed certain grips for so long. For example, like there's a seam going down the back of the gi. If you go around for an ogoshi and your hand goes past the seam, that's considered, illegal. You're meant to keep. your hand on that side of the seam when you reach around their back. If you cross over the
Okay.
seam, that's considered illegal.
But I think part of the way we throw is different because we finish differently. So for
Yeah,
judo, they want their opponent to finish on their back, right? To score
yeah,
points. Whereas, we'd not necessarily want that. We might want them face down or head first.
mm.
And again, old school
Or
judo would have done that, wouldn't it? Or
yeah,
judo for self protection or self defense.
mm.
Um, would have been, I suppose, we
Yeah,
consider to do that, but it's become sportified, like karate. Though it's
mm.
become sportified.
Yeah. Or one of the things that at least we try and do and try and encourage is like getting a good control with your knees, like one knee buried into their head, the other one into their ribs, holding them
Mm,
up by their side, so you got good control, and then you can, get a decent ground and
get
pound
some
in.
striking, yeah.
If you do that in judo, I mean, I don't think they would appreciate the knee on the head, so you probably get a warning or a disqualification from that. But also, if you land them on their side, you only get half a point. So, you
You
know,
want them on the back, yeah,
mm,
yeah. So it's interesting. So like I say, for me, and I'll stand. I want to stand strong by it as well because I've thought before about calling what we do martial arts rather than karate. But I've done karate all my life. So since I was 9 years old and 52 now. So um, to drop the name, I don't know. I'd feel I'd be doing karate a disservice. Because it's
mm,
stuck by me all this time. And
yeah,
to let people say, "Oh, that's not karate," and I think actually I'll just call it martial arts instead. And also, karate does have, I think, a bad um, not maybe a reputation. People see it as the softer option, the softer sport. Um, so I got tagged on social media the other day because somebody wanted their kid to go to karate, and somebody in the comments said, "Oh, take him to boxing or MMA." And the
mm.
mum said, "No, no, I don't want my son to be punched." So this is, so she's choosing karate because she doesn't want her son to be punched. So
Oh
it's the
dear.
image that karate gets.
Yeah,
and this
well,
is why I
little,
want to stand by it. And like I say,
yeah.
for our club, we just had a gradings yesterday. And all we had junior mat and senior mat, and all the both mats, junior and senior. They had to fight for their belts. The juniors
Mm,
just did 5 rounds, didn't they? But they did a couple of stand-up rounds, one starting on the ground where they had to pin each other for not submissions, but just to get a pin. And then we had
mm,
a couple of all-in rounds for those. So those kids were fighting. There was no head contact because we don't allow it with juniors.
mm.
But there's always a chance, where they're going to get punched in the body and they're going to get kicked in the body.
Yeah,
But and if an accident happens, they might get punched in the face. But
it
it's
happens.
it's just an accident though. So, but
Mm,
it's always seen as a softer option, and I think that's why I don't know. That's why people favour it for their kids at least.
so what you're really saying is that children need to be punched in the face more often. Gotcha.
Well, give karate a more badass name, I suppose.
I
People
get,
won't see it as
yeah,
the softer option.
yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I will say I always like this sort of quote from Tommy Joe Moore. He said, if you go to a what's it called again? If you go to a boxing gym, you're going to find people that they've been there, they've been scrapping. It's boxing's usually considered a little bit more accessible and cheaper. All you have to do is show up with a clean pair of trainers, shorts, t-shirt, and gloves. Whereas if you go to your karate class, you're going to get a lot more like what's it, middle class people wearing expensive gis, not really hurting each other. Like it's considered like the soft exercise option after they've had like a long day in the office sort of thing. Like karate really does have an image problem, but like I said, I said before, the biggest thing that we can do as karateka to change that image is to be the example,
Yeah, yeah, and like saying, and like not drop the label. So,
Mm,
like I say, I was so tempted to change the name to martial arts from a marketing perspective as well. Because like I say, people don't necessarily want karate at the moment. They'll be looking for BJJ, Muay Thai, and MMA.
mm,
So martial arts just opens it up a little bit, and people think, oh, it's a martial arts club.
mm.
So they might see it as a broader church, so
Yeah.
it will cover more
Um,
bases.
I mean, the thing is, BJJ have always had quite a large advantage since UFC 1 because that was a whole show put on, for the Gracies to show off the wonderful art that is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's a judo variant. The whole thing was so that they could. I think there was an interview that Jesse did with Superfoot Wallace about it,
Yeah,
and Superfoot Wallace was one of the judges or commentators, I don't remember, and he was saying that they did make it very specific so that the Gracies wouldn't have to fight like the wrestlers or the sumo wrestler because grappling against grappling, whereas they if they rip down like a big boxer and they choke him out, then that's considered like a very big victory, oh, grappling
yeah.
beats striking sort of thing, and they've been riding that wave ever since. However, I think recently BJJ has taken something of a image hit in a few different areas. One area was, I forget who it was, but it was a UFC fight, and one of the guys was a Sambo player, and he beat the absolute snot out of a jiu-jitsu player. I really don't remember. I just remember seeing an absolute ton of memes on social media about how jiu-jitsu is now afraid of Sambo, but then at the same time, Muay Thai has had a really big resurgence with I say resurgence, a really big marketing kick from people watching like ONE FC. So, it is dependent. And also
Yeah.
BJJ, apparently everyone is very much like, oh, I don't want to fight someone who immediately just goes to lie down on their back. Where's the stand up? Where's the wrestling? Where's the takedowns? It's
Would you?
just someone lying on their back and opening
Yeah,
their legs.
I would say martial arts do go in waves, though, don't they? I think so.
Mm,
In the 70s, probably everybody was kung fu fighting.
yeah.
Perhaps in the 80s, it was karate was a big thing, and then evolves. The 90s, perhaps kickboxing, and then the emergence of UFC, and then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then
Mm,
MMA. So it does go in cycles. And to be fair, I think some people might hate it, but I think Cobra Kai may have had a bit of a positive effect for karate. Because I mean, our junior class, juniors and teens, we're getting more on the mat now, aren't we? So
mm,
it seems to be, and some of the kids that are in our class, they've seen Cobra Kai, so
mm,
maybe it had a positive effect. So it is mainstream media and movies that kind of have an effect on martial arts, and I do think they
mm.
go in waves. Um,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I remember when the Ip Man films came out, all of a sudden everyone was interested in Wing Chun and Kung
yeah.
Fu, you know.
What about what did Power Rangers do? Who did they?
Oh,
Was that a karate or
I think that
did
was
people
probably a
want to do
mixture of
taekwondo or
karate. I think a
any
mixture
sort
of
of
karate and
striking?
acrobatics.
Yeah, yeah, any striking art.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
like the
so
big warnings coming on at the start of each episode that the Power Rangers are martial arts experts. Do not do this at home. So obviously, all the 4-year-olds watching at home, we absolutely tried that shit. I'm not going to say
yeah,
we didn't.
and the Ninja Turtles and all that jazz.
Mm,
So yeah. I mean, they do have an effect. But yeah, so going, but saying going back to is it karate? And I think the biggest pushback and the biggest kickback pushback I would say it's from the bigger Shotokan organizations because when I look at
mm.
Goju-Ryu, we talked about this before that they got their Irikumi or Irikumite,
Yeah, Irikumi
which
go.
is pretty much how we spar, isn't it, nowadays?
Mm,
So it's got that all in striking, it's got takedowns, and it's got groundwork. And I think a lot of other systems. So I know Kyokushin doesn't really have so much in the way of takedowns, does it? It's more so
not normally, no.
the stand-up striking, but yeah,
Mm,
certain systems do have it all in, and I think I must say it's probably the Shotokan that is the biggest and best known karate system in the world. That is probably the most limited.
mm.
Yeah, I've said it. I've
Yeah.
shit on karate on Shotokan again.
Again, like Shotokan, to be fair, I think Shotokan does do some things which make it deserve to be a punching bag, to be like not ridiculed, but like shown as an example of what not to do in the karate community, because it does encourage some bad habits. But every martial art has got bad habits. Every martial art has got something that it's missing. In karate's way that it's missing, I think it's missing a decent all-encompassing competition system, which is like open to karate people, not just a group of people, if that makes sense, like an open thing like that. But again, like Shotokan, it is very rigid, it's very stiff, it's very linear. The biggest thing that I hear people compliment about Shotokan is its Kumite footwork, which I can absolutely see.
I was
You
going
know,
to
I
say
have.
that, although I do poo-poo Shotokan quite a bit because I've done it for a long time, so I feel I can. Um,
Mm,
but the closing the range, being explosive, they're very, very good at that. But
mm,
yeah, once they've closed the range, if they're not back out again and they're in that interlocked, in that grappling range, then it's a
mm.
bit limited again.
Yeah,
So
that's the
it's very
Goju range there.
yeah, yeah. So we're
Yeah.
counting down now, Kieran. So with a little under 10 minutes left on our Zoom
Yep.
meeting.
Yep.
Um, have we? So you went to a seminar recently, didn't you, with Joe and Greg?
Yep. Sensei Joe Andrews and Greg Linham. Yeah, from Sunset Applied Karate, absolutely fantastic guys. Really, really, good karateka in my opinion. They are very much along our similar lines where they are talking about karate more as a combat sport and improving its, combative function and ability. They had a really good seminar, and we had a really good play there too. And yeah, it's great to see what they did, and I can't wait to train with them later on in the year. And also, Sensei Les Bobko was also teaching there too. As always, Les is an absolute magician when it comes to the stuff that he does. So that was always fun. But yeah, Joe and Greg, if you've not signed up for their seminars later on in the year, there is one, I think, on the 26th of October
That's with me.
with
Yeah,
Brian.
yeah.
So if you are willing to train with Brian and Joe and Greg, absolutely sign up for it. You could
So
drop us
that's
a
in
line and I can
Houghton
send you a
Regis.
link if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
want. Yeah,
yeah.
that's in
Just yeah,
Hatton Regis in Bedfordshire.
just got a message Joe for that, I think, or Greg. And I did actually the week after. So that's, I mean, I'm nursing an injury from the Kudo seminar that we done. So
Mm,
that's one of the reasons I didn't go on the seminar. But also, I was visiting Glastonbury, which is where their dojo is based, the
mm,
week after, and I did get to visit their dojo, which is a really nice little dojo, and all
yeah.
visitors are always welcome, they say. So yeah, I did some training with Greg because Joe was away, and I took a part of the class as well. So it's really really warm welcome there, and it was really 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 nice dojo, and like
Mm,
you say, good sensei. So
mm.
yeah,
No, they're
I highly
good. They're
recommend it.
chills. They like a little joke, and what they teach is good. So absolutely, go on down, train with them. They're brilliant.
Yeah. So next week, the combat karate
Yep, next week is the
competition.
yeah, next week is the Combat Karate Bournemouth Open, run by Sensei Steve Goodhand of AKA Karate Jutsu, or also known as AKA Combat Sports,
Oh
or
yes,
yeah, yeah, he's got a couple of different names, but Sensei Steve Goodhand. I think the entries were due at the start of the month, but if you could try messaging him if you've not
try your
signed up
luck.
already for a last minute entry. But really good competition. We've been there the last 3 years, and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's been really well run. Great competition format. I do think that is a thing when you go and train in the dojo, you're fighting with dojo rules. But when you go and compete, there's competition rules, which is more limited, but at the same time, Sensei Steve's is rule set is really good. It is basically the same as like all in fighting with karate. The only things you're not allowed are submissions and chokes, joint locks, and I suppose it's what's it, 10 seconds in a clinch and 5 seconds on the ground, so you're not wasting time rolling around all the time. So and obviously there's a kata section as well for the performers out there. But yeah, no, we're looking forward to it. We're geared up and we've got a little squad ready.
Yeah, yeah, it should be good. I missed it last year. I think I was busy last year, but I'm going to go down and coach again this year. So with
Mm.
the little squad that you're taking down, so yeah, it'd be good. And hopefully, I mean, I've not heard word from him, but hopefully Doug will have something going on this year. But we've
Oh yeah.
talked about potentially doing some inter clubs, haven't we? So we've got to reach out to
Mm.
some clubs. Anybody who wants to come and do a sparring session finished with some matchups with our students, we're going to try and go and visit clubs and do the same. So it's not an open invitation, sort of. It kind of is, but yeah, I don't want some weirdos off the internet listening to this just to
Well,
turn
where
up
do
in
you
the
think we're
dojo.
posting? We don't want weirdos on the internet. Where do you think we're posting this, Brian?
Yeah, well, I don't know where you share it. Um, so yeah, but yeah, we've got some plans to get some more sparring outside the club for the students really, because I think it's really
Mm,
important.
yeah.
It's one, like you said, it's one thing sparring within the club, but it's better to be, doing some interclubs, doing some sparring sessions outside of the club, and
Mm,
matching up with different fighters. So yeah, hopefully that will take off next year. Um,
hmm.
can't think of any other. So actually, the same day, Tommy and Les are teaching in Waltham Cross.
Yeah,
Same day as the
absolutely.
tournament. So unfortunately, we'll miss that. And actually, I think we've not mentioned him. Are we going to do it or not?
Oh, are we going to do it? Are you going to break the seal, Brian?
Hey, Mal Bingo. Right. Okay. So yeah, he's teaching at Lee Taylor's dojo the day before the tournament, because we would have
Yeah.
we would have gone to that because there's Mick Tully and Al Peasland teaching there. I think they're really quality martial artists as well. So would have gone to that had we not been going to Bournemouth the same weekend. Because we always like to see Mal, don't we?
Mm,
And we always like to
yeah.
mention him on the podcast.
As we do. And Luke is at home rolling his eyes. Yeah, we
He's
see
got
you,
the bingo
Whitwell.
card ready. Yeah, we should have a bingo card with what minutes are they going to mention Mao? So yeah, with
Okay, good, good. We
a few
got
minutes
just
left.
under, we only got a few minutes left. Anything else to plug, Brian?
Yeah, nothing really to plug. Just got to say, big well done to our students that graded yesterday, because
Mm,
we had like we mentioned it earlier, our junior mat and our senior mat. We have like 6 months between gradings, so they put
yeah.
in a lot of work, and it's a really good standard from the students. So yeah, really really proud of them. We from the instructors team, myself, Kieran, and Sensei Luke, and Jack was on the panel yesterday writing notes as well. So it was really really good quality. So
Mm.
unfortunately, we didn't take any videos from the day, because there was some good stuff that would have been nice to share with people, but they could have decided whether it's karate or not, or
Nah,
whether we
no,
just.
no videos. We make them suffer in silence. They don't get an audience.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, but no, it's really good. So yeah, really well done to the Zanshin crew there. Really
Yeah,
proud of them.
yeah, very well
Um,
done. All right,
yeah, so I think
sweet.
we wrapped
Well,
that up.
yeah, absolutely. We'll wrap it up. As usual, you can find me at Mackenzie Karate on Instagram. And Brian?
Yeah, Brian Bates, Zanshin Karate on loads of platforms: YouTube, Insta, TikTok, Facebook.
Okay, great. Until the next time, guys, take care and keep training hard. Us.
Of course.